Well, hi there, and welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Debbie Georgiani with Jerry Usher, and as we always say, but we get new listeners all the time, and hopefully you, because you drive the show. And this is where we take a fresh look at ourselves and the world around us. And in that world around us includes our pets, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is a listener-suggested topic, even though there's very urgent and important things happening in the news today. We are taking this on because we do honor what our listeners suggest for topics. So we're talking about pets today. Are pets really that smart? That's what we're talking about. Hi, Jerry.
Hi, Deb. Yeah, and we do put topics on the calendar, a ways in advance, so we can't anticipate what the news is going to be, but if there's anything going on that you want to know about, tune into EWTN News Nightly, Catholic Connection, Al Crusta's show, and so many other good programs. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about, do our pets really know when we're feeling blue, when we're sad, maybe when we're sick, maybe when we're dying, Debbie? We hear stories about this, amazing things, like a family will be on vacationing on one side of the country, they live on the other side of the country, and their dog gets loose and they lose him, but they have to go home from their vacation, and the dog travels 3,000 miles across the country and gets back home. So I think this is an interesting topic. Pets are created by God, and I believe God can give them that sense of what their owners and families are going through.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, Jerry, that, pets are created by God, because let's go back to the story of creation, if we can, just for a moment, when God created all of the things that we enjoy on this beautiful earth. And on the sixth day, on the sixth day, let me just read this straight. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth every kind of living creature, tame animals, crawling things, and every kind of wild animal." And so it happened. God made every kind of wild animal, every kind of tame animal, and every kind of thing that crawls on the ground. God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the tame animals, all the wild animals, and all the creatures that crawl on the earth." God created mankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. And it goes on to talk about this, but what my point is, we were created on the same day, the sixth day. So I think do you think it's safe to say, Jerry, that there's going to be some elements of that we see kind of maybe some human behavior in our pets, and even some, animalish behavior in humans? Do you know what I'm saying? Because we were created on the same day.
Yeah, I think we definitely do, and that's what we want to talk about with you, our listeners, today. Do you own a cat, a dog, maybe a horse? Horses are really smart. Maybe any kind of other animal, maybe an exotic animal. We have a lot of people who own birds, of course, and those birds can talk. Maybe you can teach them things like, in fact, I think, Debbie, I just remember this. I saw online one time, there was a person who had trained their bird, I think, to sing the Ave Maria or something like that.
Oh, that is cool.
It was beautiful.
Okay, that's totally cool. Yeah. Well, I do. I mean, you have a dog, Duke, and he is such a good boy. He really is. He's really quite handsome, I might add. He's just really sweet. Marty and I have Gracie. She's a Maltese, full-bred Maltese, and she is just precious. And in our opinion, she definitely has some innate behaviors. I mean, she's authentically a dog, but she has these behaviors that really, they just show such great empathy and just a gentleness. And she's always, like all dogs, she's always living in the moment. She can see us 100 times a day, but she acts like it's the first time she's ever seen us. And she starts running around in circles and, just real happy. But, that's really interesting. We can really learn from our pets. And yes, I do believe, Jerry, that, God created our pets for us to, coexist with, right?
Have companionship, yeah.
Have companionship, right? And so don't you kind of believe that the Lord is going to allow us to be able to even learn from our pets? How can we be better at that? I think it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic to talk about. And a lot of saints had a lot of pets that they were attached to as well. So this is not a new subject, folks, and we want to hear from you. Let's talk. You can brag about your pet right now at 1-833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986.
Yeah, we do have a similar topic coming up in a few weeks. Do you see yourself in your pet? And I'll tell you, I see myself in Duke so much. I could spend the whole hour talking about that, but I won't when we do that topic. But right now, we want to talk about, if you have a pet, does your pet kind of sense what you're going through? You can get home from work after an awesome day. You could be excited and jumping around. Your pet's all happy and excited and licking you all over. You could come home after the worst possible day. You could have the flu. You're laying around and your pet kind of comes up and, they sort of realize, they understand that something's a little bit different with you, and they provide us, Debbie, I think. We're not trying to humanize them here or anything, but they seem to sense where we are in our personal space, and they seem to be able to adjust to that, adapt to that. And so if you've had that experience, 833-288-3986.
I've talked about this before on the show. My dad, when he was very sick with, on his death certificate, I guess the doctors couldn't decide if it was leukemia or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but it doesn't really matter at this point. But my dad was very sick, and he loved Gracie, and Gracie loved him. And we took Gracie to see my dad for the very last time, and on the drive over, we told her, we said, Gracie, this is the last time you're seeing Grandpa, and she knew. She kissed him goodbye. When we left, she literally tried to jump out of our arms to get back to him, to say goodbye to him. It was unbelievable. We were crying like crazy, and we said, oh my goodness, does she know? Does she sense that he's not going to be here much longer? And it was amazing the way she picked up on that. And maybe we're reading into it, maybe we want to read into it, I don't know. It seems like this is really interesting, and maybe God intended it for us. God has always given us helpers on this earth. Look how he gave us the guardian angels. He's always given us companions and helpers for us to be the best authentically human beings we can be. So let's have a good discussion about this.
833-288-3986. We have, of course, the great famous TV examples. Lassie, remember Lassie back in the I think it got started in the 1950s. The human beings would say, what's that, Lassie? Somebody's trapped up on Smoky Ridge? Really? They're 1.3 miles from here, Lassie? Oh, right. Somebody has a sprained ankle and they can't move? Oh, what else? Oh, they're out of food, Lassie? Well, let's go. Or Flipper, Flipper out in the water. Right. So anyway, it's a little bit of a lighter subject today, but we can tie it into our faith. How do you sense comfort, consolation, peace, friendship, companionship with the pet that God has allowed you to have in your life? 833-288-3986. We've got Kathy and Jill and others coming right up here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Morning Glory. It's Catholic from coast to coast.
We live in a culture today that says that suffering is meaningless, therefore we have to avoid it. What we're talking about here is finding meaning in the suffering that is unavoidable. At the Amsterdam Funeral Expo, the euthanasia activists unveiled a suicide machine.
Toy.
That's business.
Morning Glory, talking about everything important to today's Catholic. Tomorrow morning, 7 Eastern, on EWTN Radio.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, president of Life Issues Institute.
Vincent Lambert is the French counterpart of Terry Schiavo, who was dehydrated and starved to death in America. Like Terry, Vincent isn't terminally ill and has limited awareness of his surroundings. The European Court of Human Rights ruled against his family and allowed food and fluids to be taken away until he dies. The family appealed to the UN Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which demanded the French government protect Vince's life until they make a decision, likely to take 2 years. France is likely obligated to cooperate because they agreed to this treaty. If the committee stays true to their rules, withdrawing food and fluids to kill Vincent will not be allowed. Please keep him and his family in your prayers.
Like us on Facebook at Life Issues and stay informed, more informed than you've ever been.
We're talking about pets today Are they really that smart? That's what we're asking today. So please call in at 1-833-288-EWTN. Again, that's 833-288-3986. Just a quick highlight, The Good Fight with Barbara McWigan. She's a dear friend, and she is wonderful at what she does. I love Barbara McWigan. The Good Fight, Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Folks, check it out. You'll love it. You'll get hooked, and you'll love Barbara. She's just incredible. Great woman. Jerry, real quickly, Mary Ann just wrote in on an email. She says, Marianne from Virginia, she says, my Gracie says hello to your Gracie. Just had to put that out there for this pet show. Well, I was going to get Gracie actually to appear on YouTube and Facebook for everybody, but I'm afraid she's going to jump all over the desk and, probably shut down the internet.
Maybe I'll go grab Duke before the show is over.
Yeah, that would be cute. Duke's much better on camera.
Well, yeah, Kathy, we're going to get to you. You're first. I want to share, just speaking of God and pets, I've shared this story on the air before, I think, but just real briefly. I share my house with a beautiful friend. Harvey's 86 years old, and we had been talking about getting a pet for a couple years, and he says, well, you're traveling all the time, and it would fall to me to be responsible and take care of the pet and all this stuff. And he's like St. Francis around animals, I swear. They just love him. So I finally said, I'm not going to travel quite as much. Why don't we get a dog? And that was on August 10th. The next day, the Feast of St. Clair was August 11th. So Thursday night, August 10th, we made the decision we were going to go to a shelter a week from that Saturday. They had a Clear the Shelters event going on. So Thursday night, we go to bed, get up on Friday morning, I do the show, and I end the show, and I hear this whimpering and whining outside my office/studio door. And I look out there, and there's this beautiful little, I think he's a mini pinscher, brown, probably about 8-9 pounds. And there's no way he could have gotten in there. He was inside the front courtyard, very small courtyard with a closed gate and about a 5-foot wall. So he had to have been dropped over there. But the day after we made the decision to get the dog, the day after, there was Duke. And we tried to find his owner for a couple weeks and weren't successful. So we said, well, I guess God wants us to have him here. So anyway, you know that story, Deb. And,
yeah, and he's a perfect fit. He is so cute.
He's wounded and traumatized and weird just like me, so perfect.
Perfect fit. Okay, Diane in Ohio wanted to remind us about the dog in the Book of Tobit. Can you quickly recall that? I don't recall that, Diane. We're going to have to check that out. In the Book of Tobit, the dog. Wow. Very cool. See, our pets are making their way through the Bible. I love that. Should we go to Kathy? Kathy's been waiting. Okay, Kathy gets our first up virtual award in Pennsylvania on JMJ Catholic Radio. Hi, Kathy. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. I guess I'm the only one that doesn't have a dog or a pet, but I just wanted to make a comment. It's not that I dislike pets or dogs or anything like that. I just never had one. My mother always had an asthma condition, and we weren't allowed to have animals, so I don't have a fondness towards them. But I see a trend in our daily, in the last maybe 10 or 15 years, how people are, I don't know how to word it, they're kind of humanizing their pets. And I just noticed, like, I'm in my 60s, and my kids' age, the millennial, the ones that are getting married, they're not even having kids anymore. They're having, like, dogs, and they call themselves, like, mom and dad, and it's kind of like, I just want you to be aware of this. Like, I don't want to, put that down, whatever, but, God didn't give when we take the sacrament of marriage, it's not to have dogs, it's to have children. You know what I mean? And I see a trend in that, and I just, kind of just want you to be aware of that.
Oh, yeah.
I see a lot of, in the secular world we have, that there is a lot of, really humanizing these pets. And, really, pets are in the household. I think it's like 3 times more pets than children in a household nowadays. And it just, I just want people to be aware that they do not replace humans. And I'm a mother of 3 kids, and I get offended, really. I'll be honest with you, when people say, they say, oh, mommy and daddy are here.
Right,
and,
right.
Okay. I'm like, no.
Right. Kathy, I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, I've seen that trend as well, and it is kind of, it's disturbing to see, especially when they put their pets in a purse, and they're traveling around in the supermarket and stuff. And I find that a little odd, but I guess that person needs that pet around. It could be an emotional support dog. But here's the thing. Here's my theory on this. This is why I think, and this is how this topic can weave into our spirituality. What do you think about this, Kathy? Maybe the reason why people are overly humanizing their pets is because humans have disengaged. Humans have disconnected. Humans are disappointing at a rapid speed. Look at technology. My husband and I went out for a very quick dinner last night. We sat next to a beautiful couple. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Their two boys look like they were just out of a storybook. They're so gorgeous. The dad was on the phone the entire time. The mom was on the phone the entire time. All they did was raise their head and yell at the children to stop fooling around. Two boys. I'm wondering, Kathy, this is my theory. Are we humanizing our pets to try and replace what we need as humans? Because we are made for community. We are made to interact with one another. And are we doing that? Are we substituting pets? Because really, quite frankly, they're unconditional lovers. They are amazing, and human beings disappoint. What do you think about that, Kathy? It's just my theory.
I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, you're the only one. I mean, I've been talking about this for years, and it is a tough topic to bring up to people to have dogs. They get quite offended. It's worse than saying something about their child. And I'm not criticizing. It's just that
Sure.
puts a lot in perspective for me. Unfortunately, you might be right about that, but I still can't wrap my head around the fact that if that is true, that they are actually replacing humans on a different level. And it just sickens me, actually. I don't know how to explain it. Even when something happens, the thing that upsets me is our society, we're aborting, I don't know how many thousands of babies a day. But yet, if a dog gets killed and something, whatever, it's like in the news, the person gets a fine, they get arrested. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Kathy, let me comment on that. Actually, I'm glad you brought up the connection with abortion. I don't think there's a direct connection, but you mentioned a lot of people getting married now and they're choosing not to have kids, or perhaps in some cases, unfortunately, maybe aborting their fetuses if they do get pregnant. But that paternal and maternal instinct it's wired into us. It doesn't go away. And so that has to come out somehow. So that's another theory that I have to add to what Debbie said. But also, Kathy, you are right. Let me give you an example of this, how we sort of almost worship animals and then degrade humans through abortion. I have traveled so much that I used to be on the East Coast for a job after job after job, and if I had a couple days in between, I would fly down to a place in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and just stay there for a couple days. And along the beach there, they have it's turtle nesting season, and they have signs up all over, keep your lights dim because of the turtle nesting. And, there are fines of, $10,000 if you take one of the eggs and all of this stuff. And I'm fine with that. I think that's great. But see, the emphasis is there, and yet right across the street, there isn't one, but there could be a Planned Parenthood clinic or something like that. So there's sort of a real confusion. I would call it almost a schizophrenia on the part of our culture here in this regard. But Kathy, thank you for your great take. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy, so very much. And by the way, Jerry, I don't know if you know this, but I just want to share this if Kathy's still listening. I actually use that example when I'm fundraising for Catholic Radio, because Catholic Radio is very pro-life. And I actually use that example that when we see these commercials about wounded pets and abused pets, people are very quick to give their money, but yet maybe for Catholic Radio, they're not. And I had a great response. I've always had a great response. People say, you're right. We've got to put our money to humans first, and very true, and to human souls. So Kathy, thank you so much again for that beautiful call. Okay. Are we moving on to Jill?
We are.
Okay. Jill in Wilcox, Arizona, listening on Sirius XM 130. I love to hear when Arizonans call in. Hi, Jill. Welcome.
Hello. How are you? It's so funny, but I listen to EWTN whenever I'm in the car, and I have to drive 50 miles to go to my vet.
Jill, we're losing you a little bit there. Hang on, Ryan, if you can check with Jill on that connection. We want to get you on the program, Jill, because it sounds like you actually, this is kind of a providential topic for you on the program today, and you just happened to tune in. So, Jill, please persevere there. Ryan will work with you on that.
Michael.
We want to hear you. Michael, I'm sorry. Yeah, Michael McCall is screening calls today. Michael, 30 lashes you owe me with a not so wet noodle or something. But
you got to get
okay.
Jill to stay still. Maybe pull over to the side of the road. Yeah.
Okay, Rebecca would be right after Jill then in Texas, listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Pretty well, thanks.
I have had 3 dogs. One of them just recently passed away. His name was Derby. And I have 2 more, Barry White after the singer, and Addie Jane. And I've always felt a connection to them spiritually because I resigned from my job in 2013, and I just came home and unmotivated and depressed, and I started meditating outside in prayer. And I noticed that one of my dogs, his name is Barry, would just give me one little lick on the side of my leg. Like, I'm here, I'm praying with you. So I've always felt that because I'm alone all the time, my husband works, my kids are grown, but I feel that connection, that they acknowledge that I'm not feeling well, and there'll be one little lick or a handshake, and I just always tell God thank you for my pets. I always tell him that he picked them out for me, so they make me happy.
Yeah. Well, and Rebecca, I want to share something real quickly. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but a lot of priests, a lot of pastors have pets. And it's a great companionship. They can walk with the dog and stuff. And a lot of people encourage pastors to get a dog or something like that because they are alone, and it's nice to have that companionship like you're sharing. My uncle, the priest, he always had Francesco, and then he had Claire, and can you tell why he was a third order Franciscan? But anyway, my uncle had, and we knew he was in a good place. It balanced, when he was out there with the dog in nature, and it was just a beautiful thing. So I think there is a great healing element. There's a great comforting element to it. And I'm sorry you lost your other pet, Rebecca, but you make a good point. They do bring that genuine companionship, Jerry.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sorry about your loss there, too. In fact, it reminds me, I don't know why this came to me about 2 days ago. Duke, our dog, is probably 2, maybe 3 years old, young, still puppyish in so many ways. But all of a sudden had this thought wash over me that one day I might have to take him and have him put down or something. And I started crying. I thought, oh, my goodness, because this poor guy, he's been wounded. He was traumatized. He was abandoned, out in the front courtyard, and he's been hurt. You can tell in many of his actions he's been hurt. And I always tell him almost every day, I say, Duke, no one's ever going to hurt you again, I promise. And then I thought of that day, when I might have to, if he's in pain or something. And it just really made me emotional. So anyway, I don't know why I shared that, Rebecca. Do you have anything else?
Yes, well, what happened to my Derby, now that you're bringing that up, he was also abused, and we brought him in as a young little guy. But the crazy thing about it is I was watching over him because he was mauled by a couple of dogs 21 days before his death. And I was taking him to a doctor every day for IVs and the shots and everything. And he actually was getting better. He was walking, he was barking. And then out of nowhere, I found him passed out in the grass, and I was sobbing. And I had told him I would never abandon him. And then my husband came out, and he put my dog in a bag, and I went, because he thought, well, he looked dead. And I was out by the porch, because my dad had passed away 2 years ago, so I knew the number of minutes, So I ran back to the bag, and I tore it open, and I put my finger in his little neck for a pulse. And even though he wasn't there no more, I could feel a pulse, and I tore the bag open, and I said, Derby, I'm here, don't worry, I'm here for you. And I held him, and it took about 30 minutes for him to leave, but it just felt like the image of the Virgin Mary with our Lord, and she held him, and I cried for days, but I just felt like it was a gift to give me strength because I too was abused for about 18 years. So it gives me so much strength. But I don't want to make this conversation longer, but one time when I was out there with my doggies in meditation, I told my husband that all of a sudden in the trees I heard a lot of rustling, and it was two birds. And they were rustling frantically, and I looked up there as my three dogs were next to me, and it was like time stood still, and it was like a message from God that said, I'm sending you the image of love, which is St. John Paul II.
Yeah.
So I've just been happy ever since.
Well, and Rebecca, you're reminding us how our pets, the animals. I referenced the story of creation, how God created the tame animals, and how they are there for us as companions. They help us. They can help us in healing, with depression and feeling of loneliness and stuff like that. And even there's dogs and cats that are trained to help people with medical illnesses like diabetes and stuff. I mean, it's pretty
blindness,
amazing. Yeah,
guide dogs. Yeah,
that's true. PTSD. I know the PTSD dogs are really doing wonderful work, and they're being authentically how God created them. Thank you, Rebecca, so very much. When we come back, more of your calls. Jill, hang on in Arizona. We're going to get you back. We're talking about pets today. Are they really that smart?
Father Wade Menezes.
The Father himself gauges his Son, capital G, as the most perfect one to act in his stead, he whom the Father himself sent into the world.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio. Bishop Robert Barron.
For the first 1,000 years, there were married priests within the church. There still are married priests under certain circumstances, so it's not absolutely necessary. However, I'm a supporter of it, and I wouldn't want us to move in the direction of kind of optional, some do it, some don't. I get it. And I go back to Paul, and it's Paul's words that are actually in the ordination ritual, about an undivided life, a total gift. I have nothing but the greatest respect for married people. In fact, when I hear the term heroic sanctity, when they talk about saints, I think of parents right away, who give themselves to their kids. But there's something, I think, pure and simple and undivided about the life of celibacy. It's a radical conformity unto the celibate Christ. Why am I celibate? My ultimate answer, because Jesus was, and I'm conformed to him.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
Hi, this is Janet Williams. We embrace the essence of feminine spirituality on Women of Grace tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on a Thursday, and we're talking today about pets and what they bring to and add to our lives. The many times they are gifts from God and really help us to see ourselves in a different light sometimes, and even draw closer to the Lord through our companionship with them, without, of course, humanizing them too much, sending them to $150 a night doggy hotels and or leaving your $13 million to your cat, things like that. 833-288-3986. Jill, we're going to go back to you, but I just wanted to say, Debbie, we had a comment at take2show.com. Catherine said, yes, people attach to their dogs as they feel disconnected. I presume she means with one another.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reference book by John Katz, no pun intended, I'm sure, K-A-T-Z. It's called The New Work of Dogs. And Catherine says, good call, Debbie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And also, too, Jane wrote in about Don Bosco. I actually the story of Don Bosco's dog, which had a very angelic nature, I actually talk about that in my talk on guardian angels, Jerry. Very interesting. And I'll be talking at the Fullness of Truth conference in Houston, right outside of Houston, Texas, the end of June. And I'll be talking about that. It's very interesting how angels will take that have that appearance in order to help a human soul. So Jill, we've got you back in Wilcox, Arizona on Sirius XM 130. Thanks, Jill, for hanging on. Welcome again.
Oh, hi. Sorry about that. That's nothing like traveling with cell phones.
Right. You sound great now.
Anyways, oh, thank you. I was coming back from the vet, so it was really funny to hear you guys on EWTN talking about dogs. But what I was wanting to say was the dog that I took today is actually a rescue dog. We weren't looking for dogs, but I'd been praying for, close to 6 months for patience. I am the first to admit that I can lose my cool at the drop of a hat. So I've been praying for patience, and for some reason this dog popped up into our lives, and she has issues of separation anxiety, and she really pushes my buttons for learning patience. And I really believe in my heart of hearts that God is using this dog to teach me patience. I believe dogs are well, my pastor always said, Father Mark, he always says that, animals don't have souls, and I believe that they don't, but I also believe they are vessels of grace given to us if we can learn proper balance with our animals. As I believe your caller was Kathy said, we can't humanize them.
Right.
But she has taught me patience that I would normally lose it, but I have learned that when I yell or when I lose my cool, she just goes to pieces. She has bad behaviors, and, so I realized that I got to check myself. And what a grace from God to have something physical to check you instead of all in your mind constantly.
Yeah. Well, Jill, thank you. I'll just comment real quickly here. And I really do believe that God can, like I said, in my case, there was no question, Duke was from God. I mean, there is no other explanation for that. I mean, there's a human explanation. But the night before, we had said we're going to get a dog. The next morning, he's inside the courtyard, couldn't have gotten in himself, couldn't find his owner. Okay. But think about this. If people might scratch their heads and question what Jill is saying, Debbie, God, well, look what God has used in the Bible, an ass to speak, and he's used, the fallen apostles and their quirky ways, and he could use in our lives a coworker or a complete stranger to say something to us at some point in our lives that we just absolutely need to hear at that moment. So, yeah, I think we'd be remiss in thinking that God cannot use cats, dogs, birds, snakes, and all kinds of stuff.
And we know from the saints that angels have. And so, yeah, Jill, I think it's very interesting. And what you said just really reminded me something about, again, my uncle, God rest his soul, a beautiful priest. He actually was a mentor to Benedict Groeschel, Father Benedict Groeschel. They grew up in the same town. My uncle was a few years ahead of him. And it's pretty amazing. And I used to ask him all the time. I used to ask my uncle all the time, do pets go to heaven? And he would say to me all the time, technically, if you want to talk about what the church teaches, it's souls that go to heaven, human souls that go to heaven. He goes, but if God knows that is going to bring you happiness, then everything is possible. If you really need that, you're not going to probably need that because you're in the beatific vision, you're in the presence of God. But, we don't meditate enough on heaven. Carlo Broussard was on the second hour of Catholic Answers yesterday. Jerry and I were on the first hour, and Carlo Broussard was talking about this. We don't meditate enough on heaven. Heaven is all these beautiful things and everything we could imagine in such in a great way beyond our comprehension. And I just wanted to say that I think that God had a plan for all of this, the pets, everything. Well, you look at the story of creation. So I agree with you, Jill. I think we can learn a lot about ourselves and how to be better human beings, more authentically what God had created. If it's through pets, through other people, it works. So I think we're with you on that, Jill. What do you think? Anything else you want to share?
Yes, I just wanted to share that I believe it was Kathy who said that, we humanize our animals. And yes, it is a problem, especially here in America, because, it's more prevalent here in America. But I just want to say that my daughter is unable to have children. And she's very nurturing, so she's, of course she has a cat and a dog. But I believe that God gives these animals, especially to mothers who can't have, or to women who can't have children, to keep that nurtured. I believe that without her having that nurtured, she would become very self-absorbed. And
interesting.
so, I not that my daughter, she doesn't baby her animals, but yet they are a very big part of her. But I believe that if she hadn't had the opportunity to have these animals in her life, with the thought that she can't have children, I do believe she would get self-absorbed. And you don't let in your graces this way when you're self-absorbed, as we all know, in all areas.
Wow.
That's a very good point.
I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you, Jill.
Thanks, Jill. Appreciate the call very much and the listenership. I just wanted to mention that we just got an email from Casey, one of our regular listeners, and she says, meet Newman. Newman is a Labradoodle, and she sent in 2 pictures of her with her dog, which all of you are welcome to do. We'd love to see your dogs.
I love Labradoodles. They're so cute.
Take 2 at EWTN.com. And what a gorgeous, gorgeous dog you got there, Casey. You're attractive too, but this is about your dog today, okay? So yeah, we'd love to see any other pictures if you want to send them in. Okay, Marilyn, thank you, Rich. Hang on, Rich, you're next. Marilyn is in Houston, listening to Take 2 on Guadalupe Radio Network. Hi, Marilyn.
Hi.
Go right ahead.
I was going to tell you, in I'm a single person, and I was single then when I was younger. And in 1999, I'm a sleeper that doesn't wake up for anything.
Okay.
Anyhow, I had pets, my kitties in the house, and I was sound asleep, and all of a sudden, my cat starts clawing me at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, leave me alone, it's not time to eat. And so finally, I just turn over to get away from her, and when I do, I see flames.
Oh,
from 3 feet from me, about 3 feet high in the air. And I said, it's just imagination. It's just a dream. And I put my finger out. It was not. They were flames. And, I mean, it was amazing. Even the cat could wake me up. I'm so down.
Wow.
I could have died from the fumes from the flames and things.
Mm-hmm. Smoke
anyway,
inhalation.
I was able to get out and get out of the apartment. I kept trying to, and my fire extinguisher didn't work, and things like that, and all kinds of things happened. And and I went to try to get help, but the little whitey kind of followed me out. Thank heaven. And I even tried to beat the flames with a blanket, but I think it was electrical, and it would hit me. It didn't go anyway. It was a terrible disaster, but Whitey saved my life. And not all the things out, but we couldn't even get. It was like an inferno between the door and the house. But anyway, I was blessed to have Whitey until she was like in her 20s, and even when I would go to work in the morning, I'd have to wake up, and I wouldn't hear the alarm clock, but Whitey would tap the hair, pull my hair, so I'd wake up in the morning. I felt like she was like a little angel from God sent to save my life along the way.
Well, and Marilyn, thank God.
As long as the good Lord placed them into our life for a purpose, and I was glad I had Whitey.
Yeah, and thank God, because when our pets instinctively act and respond in the way they know how God created them, it's a beautiful thing. There's a beautiful chemistry that happens that they can be life-saving. We talked about that in medical issues with people who are hearing impaired and are blind or have diabetes or some other illness, or it's very interesting. And then our pets just know how to how to assist us. You're reminding me, though, Marilyn, it's very interesting. You're reminding me, though, of the fact that we do all have our guardian angels who, in many ways, every day help us to avoid things that happen in our life, accidents and things that we're not even aware of. When we get to heaven, we're going to see all the things that our guardian angel have done in our lifetime. It's very interesting, and it just reminds me how God, He very intentionally wants us to be safe. He wants us to be spared from a lot of these things that could really cost us our life. And so it's very interesting, Marilyn. I'm glad you shared that story. That helped me tremendously. Jerry?
Can't add to that. Just I'm kind of looking at the emails coming in. We're getting a lot of dog photos on email, which is great. Darcy, thank you. And Paul and Casey sent back another message saying, you guys rock. We love the show. So thank you, Casey. If anybody wants to send a pic of your pet, we'd love to see it. Take two
Let's
at EWTN.com. Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Can we
put them on Facebook?
I think we can. I talk to Jeff and learn how to do it. Marilyn, thank you. Okay, Rich, promised you were next in San Antonio. The others, hang on. We're going to get to as many of you as we can. Rich, listening also on Guadalupe Radio Network. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Well, thank you, and thanks for taking my call. And I want to hit, you had mentioned, you said providential earlier. So I always have a saying, I don't believe in coincidence, I believe in providence. And about a year ago, I called into your show. I was very emotional at the time. And the topic was about having a therapist or seeking counseling. And I spoke about my experience. I'm a wounded warrior with PTSD, severe clinical depression. And one of the unfortunate byproducts is it's broken my marriage and my family. And that was about a year ago. And today, just this morning, I had a court appearance to where my divorce was finalized, and that was after 25 years. And I say that because all at the same time, within the last several weeks, an organization I was approved for a service dog. And the Army has qualified me because of some of my injuries. And I now have a brand new, born on April the 12th lab puppy that will undergo 18 months of training. And when we're done, we'll have the highest certifications of a service dog. And this is what it's done for me as I've struggled. When you have some of the issues that I have, like depression, and I come home and the only human contact that I have is when I'm at work. So I really don't look forward to coming home at the end of the day. And now that I have this puppy, it does provide companionship, and it allows me an opportunity at redemption. And I know that sounds really stupid, but when you're 48 years old and you're in a place in your life like I am now, you don't consider it normal that you would wake up at midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning because you're trying to housebreak a new puppy and you want to take them outside and you want to teach them. And I'm able to exercise patience, compassion, and a lot of the things that I did not show and that I did not incorporate in my behavior as a married person and as a father and suffering from some of these things. So I'm not smart enough to tell you if I think, dogs or animals, are intended from God, to be companions. I certainly don't think they're intended to take the place of human interaction. But I have to remind myself that sometimes when I focus on how everything in my life is collapsing, I sometimes have to remember that it's His will, not my will. And maybe this is a way of things falling into place for me. And if my service dog is going to help those things fall into place.
Hear every syllable of what you were sharing, because it's so true. You're learning and growing with the interaction that you have with this wonderful service dog. By the way, what is your service dog's name?
I was hoping you were going to ask that. I'm an Auburn grad, so I wanted to name her Barkley after Charles Barkley, but my 8-year-old daughter, she overruled because she said that's not a boy's name, or not a girl's name, it's a boy's name. So we had to change her name to Bailey.
Bailey.
So Bailey is my dog.
I love it.
Well,
I
you
love
do know,
Barkley or
Rich,
Bailey.
there's a lot of, here, the network is based in Birmingham, as I'm sure you know. And, you have a lot of, competition being an Auburn grad, a lot of Bama fans. No, I'm not one of them, but I'm just saying.
And
anyway, go ahead.
We still have to pray for them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Michael McCall, our call screener, just typed over War Eagle.
That's right.
Well, Rich, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. It definitely came from your heart, and I just loved everything you shared, because we can learn and we can grow in our own development as human beings, and on that road of holiness. Because everybody, every person we encounter, every pet we encounter, God's creation and nature, it can allow us to reflect on our own nature and growing in virtue. And things that we all deserve to practice in, so that we can be better, like the saints did. They're our role models. Rich, I just love what you had to say, and I look forward to the next time you call and all the things that you have learned since then. And I pray that, even though you went through this divorce, I know it must have been tremendously hard on you. It sounds like you still are very active in the family, and I pray that the family has a lot of healing and a lot of growth, and beautiful things come out of your family, and which can happen by the grace of God. So, Rich, thank you so much for that testimony. Jerry?
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that. And tailing off on what Rich said and has been kind of mentioned during the show already, a pet, like he was talking about, he has no problem getting up at 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning to take the dog outside to do her thing. And, I've discovered the same thing. I think they bring us out of ourselves a little bit, just like children. Again, not to compare the two, not to humanize the pets, but even if we have children, those who have pets also sometimes have to get up middle of the night and help the pet do whatever they have to do. So it brings us out of ourselves. And Rich, I've been through myself a lot of depression in my life, and suffered a lot of different things that have just caused me to, just have some issues that I've had to kind of stumble along in life in many ways. But now having Duke, he sleeps in the room with my friend Harvey, but he'll come into my room. I leave the door open, and usually 2 or 3 in the morning, the licks on the face wake me up, and I know what he wants. It's guaranteed he wants treats. Sometimes he wants to go out, but I'd say about 75% of the time he knows that I'm going to go to the kitchen and get a couple treats, and then, he's going to be satisfied. So anyway, that's that. Hey, I want to mention too. Go
Jerry,
ahead.
the reason why Duke is always getting treats from you is because you're always saying, Duke's a good boy. Duke's a good boy. That's all you ever say to Duke. Do you have anything else you say to him?
Well, I have an emotional attachment. I can't, if he just looks at me, I take him for a walk or give him a treat or something. I got to learn a little bit more discipline myself. But, folks, those of you who have Alexa, you can say, ask EWTN to play Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and it will play just our show. I don't know if you know that or not. So if you've got the Amazon Echo smart speakers, 1/3 of all households have it. If you say, Alexa, play Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, then you can get right to the archives of our show. Okay?
I didn't know that. Is that for real? I love that.
It said it on this note that
and you
Jeff
it.
passed over to. Well, it's got to be true. If not, Jeff's in trouble.
Okay, let's go to Sherry, and Sherry's in Dayton, Ohio on St. Gabriel Radio. Hi, Sherry. Thanks for waiting and welcome.
Hi, Debbie and Jerry. I've got a couple of stories about diabetes. Before my mom passed, she had diabetes, and in the middle of the night, our dog, Perone, he's a half poodle mix, or whatever it's called, he was barking really loud, and she woke up, and she said, what's wrong? And she noticed that she had low blood sugar. She checked it, and she just raved about little Perone, about him calling. And that's what happened to my sister, too. She's got a half poodle mix, and her dog's name is Hazel, and she said that she did that, too, the same thing. And I read in the diabetic journal at the doctor's office that when you cuddle and you hug your pet, it lowers your blood sugar, and I was really surprised about that. Mother Angelica said that the animals have souls, that when they die, their souls die, too. And there was a cat that came up to the convent there, and she took the cat in, and she just loved it. And I was really impressed about that. What else? A little Scooby puppy died. He was a mix too. We had him it was about 2 years ago, and he used to, the last 2 weeks that he was alive, before he was going to die of a stroke, he followed me around everywhere. I would run, he would run, and he would be real close to me, and he slept on my belly those 2 weeks, and I think he knew that he was going to pass pretty soon. I think God gives him some kind of intuition or whatever it's called. So I really never loved animals until my sister dropped off her cat and her dog over here, and I said, well, in the Bible it says we're supposed to take care of the animals, the tame animals, because they're helpless. They need us. Sure. And so now I like animals.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that. Thank God, because I have a neighbor who's got a little boy who's got diabetes, and their dog that we all fundraised and helped to get, has saved his life numerous times in school. And it's pretty amazing. And I believe that, let's go back to the creator of all these wonderful things, our God. He wants us to have every chance, every opportunity, and every element to come into our life to help us get to him. That's the goal. And I think that's what I'm taking away from this conversation, is that whether it's our pets or even things that we encounter in life, just going out in nature, God is pointing us towards him. And it's a beautiful thing when you think about it like that. What do you think, Jerry?
I think that Marianne just emailed, and I was typing a reply to her.
Okay. Okay. That's okay.
See, folks, you get to see behind the curtain on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. It's a good thing there's two of us. I can't imagine doing this show without you. And, of course, people would probably prefer you did it without me, but that's okay.
No, but I agree. I agree with Sherry. Our pets are there. They can help us. If we have an illness or something like that. And I just think it's really beneficial to acknowledge that God, has thought of all this for us. I think it's a beautiful thing. Our good Lord is so great. When you think about it, we are blessed.
Yeah. Fiona in Texas, we have actually 60 seconds, Fiona. Sorry to keep you short, but welcome to Take Two.
Hi, thank you.
Sure.
Well, my comment was that I work in the veterinary field as an assistant, and I just saw that healing animals and being there for them and caring for them, you can actually see that they appreciate it, and they're like some ways thankful for the care. And so in turn are the owners, who obviously, care deeply for their pets. That, so I just wanted to say that you can really see the care of that. So.
Well, thank you, Fiona. Thanks for doing that. And thanks for your work in that field as well. Every time I take Duke to get his nails trimmed, I grow in my admiration for vets and vet assistants and people at the animal hospitals and so forth, because he hates it. He hates it. And every wound on my body is from Duke, by the way. I've got scratches and bruises and claw marks.
You look like you were beat up.
They're all love marks, though. So, Fiona, thank you so much. I just wanted to mention, told you about Marianne's email. She referenced the little boy named Casey in North Carolina who was lost in the woods earlier this year, wasn't found for several days, and when he was found, he said, a bear had stayed with him until he was found. So Marianne says, so there you go, Debbie. These things do happen, and I believe that God sent that bear or angel disguised as a bear to help keep him safe.
Yeah, I believe that as well. Our good Lord wants to help us. Wow. Jerry, what do we have planned for tomorrow? I don't have it on my list.
Going into the weekend. I think
Friday?
something about
going into the weekend.
What are your weekend? What are your weekend plans, right?
Oh, exciting. So spend a Friday with us tomorrow. We want to hear from you. Remember, this is your show. And thanks, and spread the word. Like us on Facebook, Jerry and Debbie on Facebook. We'd love to have your like. We appreciate that. Until tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day. See you real soon.